We have assisting me in the opining department, old friends of the show, Amy Ridenour, president of the National Center for Public Policy Research and author of the highly acclaimed book entitled Shattered Lives. This, of course, analyzes the 100 worst examples of government-managed care casualties. You want a free copy? Not a problem. Go to visitnationalcenter.org. Again, visitnationalcenter.org. Amy, good to have you back.
Glad to be with you.
Joining Amy Ridenour, Bob Weiner, Democratic strategist, columnist, former communications director for Clinton Drug Czar General Barry McCaffrey, former chief of staff for the House Committee on Aging, former communications director for both Congressman Rangel and Conyers of New York and Michigan, respectively. Bob, good to have you back as well.
It's a pleasure, and I was the spokesman for that House Government Operations Committee under Conyers. That was my job, and that same operation that you just referenced and had those clips from was done by Ashcroft and Gonzalez, the same failed transfer of guns to the same people in Mexico in the Phoenix operation of Customs, the very same one, Ashcroft and Gonzalez. So if you're going to impeach Holder, you got to get to Ashcroft and Gonzalez too, and that's a point I made on Fox National when they interviewed me on this.
Yes, and you're fortunate I wasn't around because I could have, of course, eviscerated your ego into a puddle of sweat because you and I both know that
I'll listen to your argument.
Know that you both know darn well that similarities do not dissimilarities erase. Wide receiver was what it was called during Bush, but saying it's the same operation as if that means they had the same result is intellectually disingenuous.
The same failed result, the same failed batteries, and Conyers made the point when the hearing opened
You're comparing maybe 100+ guns getting lost versus over 2,000. Therein lies the disparity.
Oh, there were a lot more than that. It was a
now.
massive operation going to hundreds of
then more would be
Mexico.
heard right now. There's no way the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Boston Globe, the Los Angeles Times, they would not be missing out on it in emphasis. Everybody knows.
Post wrote this story and
everybody knows that if we're talking about proportionality, all right, it's like comparing two thieves. One steals a loaf of bread, the other one robs a bank. Are they both thieves? Yes. Are they both the same kind of thieves? No. Amy Ridenour, what am I missing?
You're not missing anything as usual, but Bob is that a lot of the criticism Attorney General Holder is receiving now is for inconsistent statements made by his Justice Department and his subordinates to the Oversight Committee, for them not releasing quite a lot of emails and other data that's available. Whether it's about Bush or not, they're not releasing it. And also for the fact that it is believed, and there is evidence for this belief, that at least when it was happening under the Obama administration, the point was to build support for additional gun control. There are two problems with that. The first is the issue, which one could debate. I'm against it. You might be for it.
No.
That's one thing. And
it was a stupid operation. I agree with you on that. It was a failed operation, and it shouldn't have been done.
But I'm afraid, wait. Bob, what is transcending all of these considerations is the fact that beyond the two programs having their respective histories, and I think empirically verifiable evidence does show that wide receiver was nowhere near as much of an abject failure as we've seen in Fast and Furious. But all that notwithstanding, you still have in the form of Attorney General Eric Holder a man who is more and more showing himself to be a prevaricator. And regardless of whatever similarities can be argued as existing between the two programs, those things are not a measure of whether or not he is wrong in having misrepresented his knowledge of this program. In May of this year, he asserted that he had only learned about it a few weeks prior to arriving at Congress, and now we find out that he knew about it 18 months ago. Amy Ridenour, I'm thinking those are more dramatic disparities than the ones hitherto referenced by good Bob Weiner.
Yes, the cliche is that the cover-up is worse than the crime. Whether or not this is a cover-up, it could be incompetence. Eric Holder's Justice Department does not appear to be forthcoming, and there is tremendous frustration on behalf of the Oversight Committee and others that are trying to get to the truth. And the fact is that other people who would give evidence as faulty as Holder has given have been, and consistently are, and will be in the future, prosecuted and sent to prison. People go to jail when they lie to the Justice Department, and yet the Justice Department apparently can't be straight with us.
Well, generic statements about people going to jail for lying doesn't mean that Holder did, and the fact that he did immediately when he found out about it, fire the people involved, is a statement that this was a precedented action from earlier administrations that was continuing, and when he learned that it was ongoing, he fired people.
About a month and a half ago, let me say this is reported in The Hill. This gives, and The Hill is, pretty much this paper is seen as rather credible on most levels. Out of the Capitol Hill, it says the headline was "Documents Show Holder Was Informed of Fast and Furious Operation in 2010." Attorney General Eric Holder was issued multiple memos from senior Justice Department officials about a controversial gun trafficking operation months before he said he first became aware of it, according to documents. In response to questions from Representative Darrell Issa of California on May 3rd, 2011, Holder testified before the House Judiciary Committee that he only recently learned about the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives Operation Fast and Furious. Continuing with The Hill, the botched gun tracking operation oversaw the sale of thousands of firearms in the Southwest to known and suspected straw purchasers for Mexican drug cartels and might have contributed to the death of Border Patrol agent Brian Terry. We now know that one of those guns was found at the murder scene. Eric Holder, what did he say? I'm not sure of the exact date, but I probably heard about Fast and Furious for the first time over the last few weeks. Now, we have subsequent to that, Bob Weiner, learned that his Assistant Attorney General, Lanny Brewer, did notify Holder about this. Okay? He notified Holder about a sealed indictment against alleged gun traffickers in Arizona by the DOJ's Organized Crime and Gang section. And more, just continuing on with The Hill, Brewer wrote that the indictment would remain sealed, quote, under another investigation. Phoenix-based Operation Fast and Furious is ready for take. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Well,
Bob,
I know it goes
regardless
on and
of what you
on,
want to say about it, what has been shown is that this man was caught red-handed, lying out of his sorry ass, and now he's trying to backpedal it.
Those were generic memos that Holder got. I know Lanny Brewer. He was my attorney when he was the one who alerted me to Ken Starr subpoenaing me and Pat, in fact. So I know Lanny, but those were generic memos. Those were not memos that told Holder they were doing illegal things and botching the operation.
Brewer had direct memos to him, and renaming a thing as being something other than what it is helps you in no way, shape, or form.
I've seen the text of those memos, and they are generic. They do not say...
More on this upon a return. You are with Battle Line, Main Street Radio Network. I'm Alan Nathan. On board as well, Robert Weiner, Democratic strategist and columnist. Always a blast to have you as well.
Thank you so much, Alan.
I want to move now, Amy, to you. Take a glance. There's so much going on. I'm going to jump out of some of the subjects I was originally going to cover, but I got to go talk with you a little bit about John Corzine. There's no way I can get through a weekly wrap-up without this. Here we got a guy who's a former New Jersey senator, turned New Jersey governor, turned clueless CEO of MF Global. He tells Congress that he doesn't know what happened to the $1.2 billion once belonging to the personal accounts of their customers. Now, Amy, given that Vice President Biden repeatedly stated that John Corzine was the first one that President Obama and he prevailed upon for guidance on the damaged U.S. economy, how will the don't know anything defense fly? What say you?
Well, let's just say this. I don't know where the money went is pretty much a good epitaph of the entire U.S. economy. So maybe the guy knows more than we think. I would say this. Mr. Corzine probably has and definitely needs a very, very good defense attorney. He has been on television for some years during his entire political career calling for more and more regulation against CEOs and Wall Street. Then he leaves office in New Jersey and loses anywhere between $600 million to $1.2 billion. So in one sense, it's a personal story. The political story, of course, is twofold. The policy, are we regulating enough? Did they loosen things up too much? And it certainly appears they have. There certainly should not be an opportunity for people's private accounts to be tapped by executives of these firms to meet their own obligations. And secondly, and this is where Bob will lose it, Mr. Corzine ran the Democratic Senatorial Committee that elects Senate Democrats. The House and Senate, of course, are up next year, but the Senate's very close. There are going to be a lot of candidates who are asked, are you going to return your contributions to that John Corzine got for you? So it's going to be a big issue. If they're smart, they'll deal with it by returning the money fast and speaking up for proper reforms. But whether they're going to be smart, who knows?
Bob, what about it?
Well, okay. First of all, I need to say, as I emailed you, that I'm here at the San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium, the country's largest meeting of breast cancer researchers, with my wife, Pat, who is presenting. Okay, now I have said that.
Say hi to Pat. Say hi to Pat for us.
Okay, and I'm thanks to them that I have a studio here and a live phone to work with. Amy, I am going to agree with you completely. Corzine is a slime bag, and I have met him. I've been in meetings with him, and I never liked him because I always felt that there was something sinister about the guy. And you're right, he was a governor, a senator, and now questionable $1.2 billion to customers. It is exactly, by the way, what the Occupy Wall Street movement is about, the lack of accountability by the great financial institutions like the banks to the people after they take their money and lose it. So I don't disagree with you a bit. However, in terms of returning the money, yeah, when the Republicans return the pharmaceutical and the oil company monies, other people will return Corzine's money. There was nothing illegal about the contributions that the senators got.
But that's the standard these days. When somebody gets indicted, which Corzine hasn't, people are asked to give the money back, whether it's smart or not.
But he wasn't indicted as chair of the Senate Democratic Campaign Committee, so it's a totally different story.
Let me hop in here for a second, Bob. Given that, again, as I mentioned earlier, though, but given that Biden and Obama repeatedly stated that, in 2009, that Corzine was the first one that they prevailed upon for guidance on the damaged economy, let me ask you, how do you think that might impact the upcoming elections? People are going to remember that the guy who oversaw the 8th largest bankruptcy in history and is now on record as admitting he doesn't know where the lost money is the very same guy that Obama and Biden said was the one who should guide them out of our troubled economy. Isn't that going to haunt the Obama camp?
Well,
yes or no?
Here's what it proves. It proves that you've got to oversee, you've got to regulate, you've got to not go back to the failed policy.
Will it haunt the Obama camp?
It actually makes
That's a disconnected measure, Bob. That's a disconnected measure of secondary and tertiary importance. The most important measure is the one born out of the original rub, first exposing the conflict. My question is very specific and direct. Will the fact that Biden and Obama prevailed upon him in 2009 as the guy who could best help us out of these troubled economic waters prove to harm them and haunt them because he is now the same man who oversaw the 8th largest bankruptcy in our nation's history? Yes or no?
Well, he wasn't the guy that they counted on, and he is a slime bag, and it makes the case, as I said, for the
Will it haunt them? Will it haunt them? Will it haunt them? I'm asking the question. Will it haunt them? Will Corzine haunt Obama and Biden because Obama and Biden said that he was the guy who would help lead them out of troubled waters?
Fine.
It
won't if you want an answer.
Amy, do you think it will have a residual negative impact on the Obama camp?
I think it will, because whomever the Republicans nominate is likely to bring it up over and over and over, and it's going to be in the news all next year.
And so will pharmaceutical
and oil company
contributions in the
You can't have a lot of faith. You can't have a lot of faith in somebody who has already shown that he's willing to put his faith in somebody who has already been shown not to deserve it on such a spectacular, breathtaking level as we've witnessed with John Corzine. That's just my take. Some other things, though, and here's the irony. Amy, you brought this up. He was been so assiduous in his effort to bring about more regulations under Sarbanes-Oxley. CEOs are now liable for what their money handlers do. So the old CEO excuse of not being aware of what his or her underlings are doing becomes far less credible. So how the hell is Corzine's claim to not know really make him any less financially exposed? He can't use that excuse with the same efficacy it once enjoyed. Now he's still going to be left exposed, at least to civil accountability, obviously not to criminal accountability, unless he can actually be shown to have had something to do with the removal of that money. What say you, Amy Ridenhour?
Well, I think yesterday when he testified that he didn't know where the money was, he was pursuing a PR strategy. And I'm not saying he knows exactly where the money is, but, that statement can mean a lot of things. It can mean I have absolutely no idea where the money went, or he doesn't know specifically exactly where every single penny of the money went. You could write a truck through that statement. And if you're his lawyer, you're going to be saying, don't testify, don't say anything, take the fifth. He's going to be saying, I don't want to take the fifth because it makes me look guilty. So they found a middle path where he said something. He expressed contrition, which was probably sincere, but I don't really know. And he said that he didn't know where the money was, which is the statement that's almost meaningless. So he was forced to testify. From a legal point of view, he probably did as well for himself as he could. That doesn't tell us where the money is, and it doesn't get him out of trouble because, as you said, yes, Sarbanes-Oxley, he's supposed to know. And number two, the money, well, it's missing, and that's kind of a big deal.
Not much time left. Looking at the.
Can I respond to that?
No, I got to move on. Because hers was a response. She was responding to you. I got to move on to something else here. Now, the president says part of the reason for our fiscal problems is because there weren't enough regulators. He's talking about that we need more regulation. He also wants the head of his new Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to be chosen. He added that because the Republicans blocked his nominee, Richard Cordray, from the directorship of the new bureau.
And his first nominee, Elizabeth Warren.
Well, she's a socialist, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and she's going to win.
They're preempting the very tools. He said they're actually preempting the very tools necessary for the Bureau to function as intended. Now, Bob, is the president right? And if so, are his opponents essentially saying that they don't want the Bureau to function as intended because it is that very functioning which they find so dangerous to the American economy? How do you see this working out?
I see it playing right into the first thing you said. How can you make the case not to have agencies like that, not to have Wall Street reform, not to have Sarbanes-Oxley? I can't wait for the Republicans to make those cases and then try to knock Corzine in the same breath.
You can always make the case not to have bad reforms, not to have bad regulations. That's the qualifier.